afternoon or whatever the hell you're watching. Maybe it's a Wednesday night, whatever it may be. I am Matt Camp. Thank you for being with us here once again, as we are every weekday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you subscribe if you have not done so just yet. Right there at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Subscriber numbers gone up big since yesterday's episode. We covered a lot of what I dealt with over 5 years, over multiple regimes in WWE. Talked a little bit about Raw, but a lot of headlines coming out of that. So if you haven't checked it out, go do so at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. More subscriptions means more content that I could put out for you. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Patrick, Dro, Courtney, Phil. What up, everybody? Good to be with you, and I don't want to keep him waiting any longer. He's a busy man. He might be, and I'll give you a stat coming up, the busiest man in all of professional wrestling. He's the king of the independent wrestling scene. I think he's the heart and soul. Maybe that's too cliche and that old Stanford brain of mine, but he is a man who you will see this weekend and pretty much all the time at GCW. Please welcome the bad boy himself from my own home state of New Jersey, Joey Janela, our first guest here on the Wrestling Match.
Thanks for having me, Matt. What's going on here?
How you doing? You're good. You're right there. You're framed up perfectly.
Little weird split screen. Maybe I turned it this way.
You were good. Whatever works for you. That looks good to me.
Okay. You have a lot of fucking sneakers.
I do, right? Yeah, they're all there. It was a collection. It was part of my wardrobe.
Wow. I'm not really a sneaker guy.
What's your vice? What's your thing? Lobster?
Lobster, drugs.
Okay, there you go. We all have different things.
Thanks for having me.
You got it, buddy. You and I have very rarely crossed paths. I don't think it's really happened at all. But I have always kept an eye on everything going on. And I remember you DM'd me about like stuff going on with Enzo about Busted Open a few years ago. And he's like, "What did he say about me?" I was like, "I don't know. Just bring the squeegee next time or something." But I have always been a fan of yours because of your hustle, and I appreciate what you've done. You've had 38 matches this year. If my cage match check is correct, you're just shy of 20 promotions. You're everywhere. You make sure that you're everywhere. You're always working. That goes a long way. Tournament Survival this weekend, 9 for GCW. I know you'll be around on Saturday, but Sunday in Atlantic City, Gauntlet. You're trying to get back to the GCW title.
Yes.
What the fuck is Matt Cardona's problem?
Matt Cardona, man. I don't even know how he became a GM. I don't know how that situation happened. He ripped his pec open, and now he's the general manager. I don't know how that situation even occurred.
Who do you think who is his inspiration as a GM?
Man, he's very, I don't know. Maybe, what's his name? Johnny Ace, brother.
I kind of thought that. I just didn't want to say his name out loud. I let you say it instead.
Can we mention Johnny Ace?
Sure. I mean, I don't work there anymore. I don't care. But I think there's a little bit of that in Cardona. Now, by the way, I have to ask how you're doing because I saw the clips. I think a lot of people did if they didn't see the match for GCW. You got powerbombed on the tops. Not through the chairs, on the tops of chairs by Paro, and I guess Jimmy Lloyd kind of helped. How are you feeling today?
Well, last weekend after that occurred, half of my arm, my right arm went numb, so I had to rush to the hospital. Thankfully, I thought it was a potential bad spinal injury, but a potential was just a nerve issue, and my back is pretty sore right now, but Sunday it's the Gauntlet Survival. It's my last shot at the GCW World Championship. And, I'm going to go for it. I wasn't allowed to wrestle Sunday in Columbus, Ohio, apparently. According to GCW doctors, we definitely have doctors there.
The famed medical staff, yes.
Yeah, we definitely have a famous medical staff at GCW. And according to Matt Cardona, they alerted him that I wasn't able to compete on Sunday in Columbus against Kevin Blackwood. But they said I wasn't able to compete this Sunday. But whether they like it or not, I will be in that gauntlet match.
And everybody can catch it on Triller, of course, this weekend. GCW has really taken the world by storm. I think it's an independent that a lot of people know whether they want to or not, and you've kind of forced your way as a company, as a promotion, onto people's social media feeds, onto their conversations. Do you have a specific role in GCW other than getting in the ring?
No, everyone thinks I'm a booker or I have some kind of management role. Uh, Maybe I would say I'm the Nick Gage, of course, is the Undertaker of the promotion, and I'm somewhat. Brett will say I'm the Triple H or Shawn Michaels of the promotion. So I'm not getting paid those big management dollars, that Matt Cardona is getting paid, but you know, I'm getting paid to perform and get power bombed on the back of steel chairs.
So you're not reading the latest Gary Vee book on your private jet, am I correct?
No, no, no. I actually met Gary Vee once. As weird as that.
Wait, what was the interaction? How'd that go?
It was weird. I didn't even know who Gary Vee was at the time. I was supposed to meet up with some friends in New York City, and John Carlo, you know him very well.
Yes.
He hits me up. He goes, "I'm in New York City. Come meet Gary Vee." I said, "Who is Gary Vee?" He said, "You know who Gary Vee is? He's this entrepreneur." I said, I can't tell you. I know who he is." And I said, "All right, I'll come." And Gary Vee was in Washington Square Park. He was just standing there, and there was a crowd around him. And then he was answering questions, and then John Carlo pushed me into the pack and said, "Tell him about spring break." And we just came off our first or second spring break, and it was very successful. And I kind of just went up to Gary Vee and bragged to him that I had a very successful first outing at spring break. It was my own brand, and I'm doing well. And I didn't know who he was, and the video's on YouTube. And I think John Carlo has a nice little picture of the interaction, but I don't know. I don't remember what that situation was. All I know is I met Gary Vee in Washington Square Park, and I bragged to him that spring break was successful and I was going to be a millionaire. I don't know.
Thank you for the headlines that you just created. Joey Janela doesn't know who Gary Vee is. I can't wait for that one.
I know who he is now. We follow each other on social media.
Oh, okay. So. There you go. I mean,
yeah.
he should embrace your entrepreneurial mindset as you have been for spring break. Now, I was going to get to spring break later, but I'd rather do it now. You brought up John Carlo, and I remember I was in the indie scene when the first Joey Janela spring break came to be. And I remember those vignettes you did. And I think you started a revolution in that way in terms of using social media. I know John Carlo was a big part of that. This is a very John Carlo-friendly show, as it always will be. But how did the idea of going from someone who was wrestling to, and you're smart enough to not run a promotion yourself, you're good with your money that way. But how does it go from I'm going to have matches to I'm going to run basically my own event?
It was kind of just fell on my lap. GCW was offered a slot at midnight at the WWN. Like what the collective is now. WWN had something like that back in the day. It was like the collective. It was like the WWN experience or something like that. It would be a bunch of promotions doing wrestling shows all weekend, WrestleMania weekend, and we were offered a midnight slot, and they said, "How can we make that work?" My name was hot at the moment. I just got thrown off the roof by Zandig. We don't have to get into that. I've gotten to that.
Don't worry about it. Not even on my list.
Thousands of times throughout the years, but that just happened. I just came back. We just started doing those vignettes, me and John Carlo. Those were buzzing on the internet. No one's ever done anything like that at that time. And, I was getting booked in all over the PWG I just started in, and Progress and all that. My name was growing, and my buzz was growing. And they're like, "How can we make a midnight show work?" And they said, "Let's just make it a Joey Janela party." And, from there, we just came up with some, I said, "Let's do some out-of-the-box stuff." And here we are today. I think we just did our 9th one. Was that 9th or 8th? I don't know. I'm CTE. I don't know.
It's a lot, but I appreciate how out of the box you think because I don't know. I don't care. I don't work with them anymore. But, like, the vignette for Ellsworth and Riddle is so well done for a match that no one's going to book on paper. No one's going to think is good. But the way you put it together, are you looking to sell the match or are you just looking to sell the buzz when you put those kind of vignettes together?
I mean, we're just selling the buzz basically for the show as a whole. Some of the matches in the history of spring break you're going to look back and you're like, what? Wait, that happened? Wait, Ellsworth and Riddle was a match that happened? Wait, Orange Cassidy wrestled Taka Michinoku? Wait, Nick Gage wrestled this guy? It's just like, I wouldn't say there has been a lot of memorable matches at Spring Break, but there's been some that, people really forget about. And, we're trying to sell this show as a whole and how crazy we can make it. But in the recent years, we've kind of get back to basics in the last year, but it's become more. We have a core GCW roster that we have to work in storylines and whatnot,
Sure.
and it can't be all fun and games now these days. But we're trying to sell the show as a whole, and there's always been those wacky matches.
And they stand out and people remember them. And in a world where there are 60, 70 shows on a WrestleMania weekend, you got to find a way to stand out. I told promoters, I was like, you got to do this stuff. Like, spend a little money if you want people to actually come to your shows.
Yeah.
And it's all about presentation. You know that from working AEW. I know that from working at WWE. You can kind of put anybody on whatever pedestal you want to and present them in a way that if they're in an interesting light, I think people will at least have some morbid curiosity, especially on a weekend with that many shows. And you just mentioned how GCW now, if we could bring up the schedule there, Dom, of what's coming up here, because GCW is absolutely everywhere. I mean, it's become like this national. I mean, look at all these dates here from Chicago. Obviously, Atlantic City's big for GCW. Denver, LA, up to Canada, back to LA. I mean, 2 runs in LA. Big companies don't go do that stuff. Honolulu's in there. Japan just gets added. Joey, how does, and obviously it's Brett's company and all that, but how do you talk about what are the conversation of that kind of expansion, knowing the money that goes into it?
I think Brett's just a maniac, and he's a workaholic. And no indie company, no wrestling company has really had this schedule ever in the history of the business. I think the closest thing to a GCW wrestling schedule is the little, what do they call that? I don't want to use the word. I guess they use the word midget championship wrestling or something.
That is what they call it. That is the name of the company, yes.
Or something like that.
That's more of like a touring act, though, is it? And I'm probably saying something wrong saying that, too. But you know what I mean? Like, isn't it more of the show to a different audience?
Their schedule is pretty crazy. And I guess they might be a little bit crazier than us because I guess they're doing shows maybe 5 days a week or something all over the place. They all shove the little guys and girls in a van and they travel the United States of America. But as a indie wrestling company, no one's done this schedule. AEW doesn't even come close to doing a schedule like this.
Which is kind of wild, and I do want to get into your time in AEW. You've put a couple things up. I appreciate how honest you are because I don't think you're trying to necessarily start shit. You just have an opinion and you put it out there, and if you want to defend it, you defend it, and if not, whatever. But you talked about, there's a tweet, if we can get this up, about the AEW schedule.
Yes.
And people not working indies. And you commented on this, and I thought it was really interesting if we have it. So there you go. You're saying if you could do the indies, do them, or you'll just rust like Tin Man. Plus, why wouldn't you want to make the extra $1,000 a week? Joey, you were there. You're not there anymore. You worked indies before and after. You're a busy man before. You're a busier man after. Why, knowing that, hell, Moxley does them, why aren't more people there working indies?
I think they're just content, we made it. We're getting this check every 2 weeks, this big paycheck, and we can sit home and play video games and twiddle our thumbs. And I would like to have that schedule too, just chilling out. Actually, now that I think about it, but this is a weird thing we do, professional wrestling. People would think that if the more you wrestle, the more broken down you'll be, but in my opinion, and a lot of other vets' opinions, the more you wrestle, the more your body is used to it, kind of. Once you take off, obviously, if you have to take off a couple months, then your body starts to feel the repercussions of wrestling. But a lot of injuries can happen if you take time off, if you only wrestle once or twice a month, because your instincts are not as good in the ring. Your timing is not as good. That's when things get sloppy in the ring. I've been there many times, is when you're not wrestling as much. Right now, I try to wrestle 2, 3, 4 times a week, and I've never been better in the ring. Of course, my body is sore when I wake up in the morning, but that's what we sign up for. And I noticed that when these guys, especially during like COVID era and stuff like that, when people are not as wrestling as much, that's when the injuries occur. You know, that's when these situations happen. And I think people should, if you're not getting the TV time, if you're not out there on TV, go do the indies, because if it all ends one day, then you're going to have to build back up your reputation and whatnot. But if you stay out there, you stay out in the public eye, you have the goodwill of those indie fans, they'll carry you through, and it won't be as hard as you think it is if your contract, if it does come to an end.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I wanted to ask you about this because you were so busy on the indies before, and you talked about being hot and how that kind of led into spring break, and then since you've been back on full time, you're a busy guy. But I always wonder, and I've talked about this for the guys that have transferred from Japan, and they don't work that many singles matches, and they don't have those TV angles every week. You're coming off the indies. Sometimes there's storylines. Oftentimes, I think we know you're trying to get yourself over to a new crowd every night, and a crowd you're not used to seeing. What was the transition like for you to become a weekly television wrestler, and how did you adapt to that?
At first, it was pretty easy, to be honest. I did pretty good there when we first started. I had the matches with Moxley, the matches with Omega, and whatnot, but they weren't really on TV at that time. I really didn't get an opportunity to be on TV till maybe month 2, and then they threw me into just a throwaway program with Sean Spears. Mm-hmm. When I felt like, nothing against Sean Spears, nothing against Tully Blanchard, but it was just, this guy's not doing anything. This guy's not doing anything. Let's just put them in a random program. When, I could have had stuff already built in, with Moxley and with Kenny, and I'm not saying I should have been out there wrestling every week on television. Just put me out there in a situation, say that Moxley's trying to mentor me and I'm crazy, and I keep on putting my body through these situations, and Moxley knows because he's been in the ring with me, and I'm just kind of there, you know what I'm saying? Which
it's just, you want to be on consistently. People are like, oh, they need a push. I'm like, a push is being
on
TV.
I don't need the pushes yet. The push is just getting on TV,
right,
on a weekly basis. You don't, and then these people, they get on TV, they get like, I want more and I want more. If you're on TV, you're on TV. Especially on that roster. You know what I'm saying? At that time, there was only one TV show, and then there was a YouTube show. And I really never complain about what I did there, but like after wrestling Kenny, having a phenomenal match, and just doing it, just getting thrown into the gauntlet, never having a developmental training or anything like that, or never really going and having a run in New Japan or not, and just going out there and just killing it with these guys who are on the, as fans say, are on the most elite level of professional wrestling, and looking like I belong there with them in 30-minute matches and whatnot, if there's plunder in there or not. I just felt like I deserved a little bit better after that, because it went from Sean Spears, but that's fine. Like Sean Spears, he's a vet. It's just, I felt like it was thrown together. There wasn't much thought into it. It's like, what do you want to do this week? Maybe you should just maybe kidnap Tully Blanchard. Like, come on. It's just like, it's still like that. I feel like at some levels that there's stuff Tony cares about. And there's stuff that's like, hey, what do you want to do with it?
Right.
Not really a thought process behind some of it, but it went from that, and then they threw me into I felt like that they threw me into a program with my ex-girlfriend, who was signed with me. It was supposed to be an act with me and her new boyfriend, and I'm like, man, I must have pissed someone off, because someone's really chopping my legs off right now. And just from there, just went all downhill. And by the time that we got to the end of my contract, I probably could have re-signed, and there was talks about bringing me back to TV and stuff, but I just didn't want to go through another 3 years of me dealing with, the backstage politics of a TV wrestling company. And not only that, but going on Twitter and then getting harassed 24 hours a day because the way I'm used on TV is making me look like I'm in a bad light.
I will say, you before and then coming back after, it shows that you got to keep it up. You got to keep doing stuff. You got to keep your name out there. And there were people that would go through what you went through, what you just described, and they wouldn't be able to bounce back, or they wouldn't be able to bounce back to the level they were at. You have done that and then some. And I want to give you credit for something. You've had 4 years with 100-plus matches.
Let me go inside because the sun is shining in my face.
You do that, I'll put you over for a second. 4 years with 100-plus matches. You had 115 matches last year, if Cage Match is correct. That was one behind your 2017 record of 116. Cody Rhodes had the most matches in WWE last year at 113. So what is it like, Joey, working a busier schedule than the WWE champion?
I mean, less money. I fucking wish. I wish I was making those Cody Rhodes dollars, but I don't got a bus in my driveway. But yeah, man, it's just about the hustle, I feel like if you keep on working hard, you keep on keeping your name out there, and you keep on showing people that you're still working hard, that someday there'll be another contract offered in front of you for big money. I feel like I'll be making money in this business till I'm dead.
and you're a good example of the hustle. I talked to Cardona about this as much as he drives Cardona. He's probably going to have a Cardona soon. He'll be hawking that out somewhere, or it's going to be a major bendy extra accessory. But he works hard, and there's a hustle to that, and you've had that hustle as well. Dom, if we could put up Joey's latest merch, because this is another way to make money in the industry. Booty shorts, Joey. I mean, like, at this point, is this the furthest you've gone with a piece of merch where you go, can we really do this? Yeah, I think this might work.
Yeah, my friend David from 2800, he's been doing booty shorts for he does, the bootleg, the bootleg ECW merch, bootleg that. I think he did some ECW booty shorts and they sold really well. And he's like, what about we do booty shorts? And I was like, you know what? Let's try it out. And the main thing was to get these hats back out there. I do it every summer. I said, I'm never releasing them again. And I released them the next summer and they sell like crazy. Now it's the booty shorts. Or selling like crazy. So expect a lot of pictures on my Instagram stories of these girls wearing some Joey Janela booty shorts. And, whatever.
It worked, but that's the thing. You have to think that way. Has there been a piece of merch that hasn't come to fruition for whatever reason that was maybe a little more off the wall?
No, this is probably the most off the wall. Recently, I've been thinking outside the box because everyone has T-shirts. I've been around the circuit for so long. I've been around people. They have 30 Joey Janela T-shirts. Some people don't want a 31st. So it's like, what can we do? Okay, let's do lighters. Let's do ashtrays, booty shorts. Gonna get some puzzles made. Puzzles
next for the kids.
Puzzles for the kids. Puzzles for the adults.
And because of your success, I think your opinion matters on other people's shirts, which you expressed with a certain shirt that came out. I guess it was released on Sunday night or early Monday morning. For the returning MJF, if we could get that up there. This is why I like to have your tweets at the ready. S-tier terrible wrestling shirt. FAO. When I worked there, I had my own designs approved. This is why I didn't miss. Austin 316. This is not. Find a good artist that won't. You see it all. Why does that happen to so many people?
It's a terrible fucking shirt. And MJF, he's coming back. Big comeback. We'll see how it translates to the ratings this Wednesday, but I'm afraid a few of those shirts probably sold.
I'm sure they did.
But a lot more of those shirts would sell if they were designed appropriately for a consumer to wear. But that looks like he just found a font, he just threw it on a shirt, and he just got it out there as fast as possible just to make some sales. And that's probably on the Pro Wrestling Tees side of things. And it's, excuse me. It's probably that's on MJF too, because if they show that shirt to me, they have to show the talent, the approved shirt, whatever. If they showed that shirt to me, I'd be like, throw that in the trash. Don't ever release that. And I would go find an artist that I know that makes good stuff. I'd be like, hey, AEW will pay you this amount to get this done in the next day. And, or at least get it done before Dynamite on Wednesday or something.
Sure.
Get it out there. But that was just thrown out there. And I'm afraid some of them, this shirt probably sold some units, but it would sell a lot more if it didn't look like that. And it will go down. There's been some bad AEW shirts. There's been some bad W. It's not only an AEW.
Oh, of course there is. Yeah.
It's a WWE problem as well. There's been some bad merch there as well. And I've gotten designs sent to me from whoever, Pro Wrestling Tees, they have artists, whatever, that were just abysmal. And I say, no.
There's okay to say no.
There's a couple good artists there. There's a couple good artists. Electric Zombie, he's one of the good ones. He did a lot of my shirts at AEW, or I had a lot of artists that I know. I'd say, here's the design. You pay the artist. You commission the artist this, and then release it. I know Brody King does a lot of. That's why his merch is better than most over there. Dan Housen, he has his own artist. That's why his merch is better than most over there. But that's also when I was there. I wasn't on top of the card. I wasn't a main event guy, but I was at one point one of the top merch sellers in the company because I had such good designs, while other people were putting out just trash.
It should go there. It's got to be, especially for an upstart company. They're still in the startup. You got to put out good stuff, and you got to put out stuff. It's got to be available. I want to flip to one of the matches that you reacted to a couple weeks ago. That was on the Go Home edition of Dynamite. And it was Bryan Danielson against Satnam Singh. And you said, this would be the first match I booked if I was Booker. I completely understood when you said that, but explain to everybody why something like that jumps out to you in such a company like that.
That's great. I like that. That's like Satnam Singh. He's doing his thing. Let's give him a match. Like they give Giant Gonzalez, Ric Flair, and WCW or something. It's like, all right, let's see what happens here in this situation. And I didn't watch it. I heard it wasn't great.
They went 6 minutes. It was the backdrop to cashing in the.
There's a funny little spot on there when Sanjay took off the top of the table and it collapsed. And that was
indicative of the rest of the match, which is not something you're often going to say with Bryan Danielson. But it was the backdrop to cashing in this bounty or whatever. And Jarrett, of course, took a great bump off the knee. I mean, that's what it was. Of course, exactly. You get that. Of course he did. I look at a match like that and I go, that'll look different. You look at a match like that, you would probably think, to me, that's like not that I don't know where Danielson's going to be at in a couple of years. That is a spring break type match, something ridiculous like that. Because how important is it these days? Because I think, today's the 10-year anniversary of TakeOver. And our friends On This Day in WWE were posting about that. And, that was very much, it felt like WWE's kind of answer to the indies, or we're going to grab all the great guys of the indies. We're going to create this fun, cool brand that's not red or blue. It's black and yellow, and this is what we have. But it seemed like there was this heavy, work rate run of the indies for a while, and then everybody just kind of got good and got better and got away from character work and promos, and it feels like that's kind of swinging back around the last couple of years. Do you, if someone's asking you right now, how the hell do I get over on the indies? What are you telling them?
I mean, everything swings back around. We're in an era we were in that work rate era with the Matt Riddles and the Kyle O'Reillys and and all these guys, the Tim Thatchers and stuff. And then all these guys got signed up. And then there was guys like Effie and Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. And as people were saying, meme wrestlers. But a lot of these guys are actually just great workers. But it just wasn't the Tim Thatchers of the world, like in that realm of professional wrestling. So, my advice now is I think we're swinging back around on a combination of everything. There's great characters and there's great wrestling, and there's, a lot of death matches still.
But there's Cardona's taken that on as part of his personality, and look what it did for him, and look at who's got involved, and to your point with someone like Nick Gage, a deathmatch guy who then can go kind of have those fun matches with random tag teams that jump out, and you put them in there with Danhausen, whatever. And honestly, I think you and I both know this. Save some bumps sometimes when you're more of a character wrestler, and you can get to the spots that you want to get to. I know you're balls to the wall. You just had a 60-minute Iron Man match with Nick Wayne, who, as I look at him right now, he's not wrestling very much in AEW, but he's getting a lot of time standing next to one of the greatest of all time in Christian. How would you book Nick Wayne if you had a chance to right now?
I mean, I would try to book him like that, like he is right now, because, when shit goes down, Nick Wayne's going to be elevated because of his time with Christian, and whatever happens with the falling apart, whether he turns on him or whatnot, you got a potential to make a massive star there. But Nick Wayne, he knows he wants to wrestle more. You can give him little matches here and there and whatnot, and keep him going. Luckily, Nick Wayne has a ring at his house, so he's able to roll around in that, and they have a whole his academy that his dad started, and that still goes today, and a lot of guys came out of that, so he can go roll around with those guys whatever he wants. But
a couple more before I let you go. Go ahead.
It's still going into the Iron Man match. He was worried because he was like, man, I haven't wrestled in a month. I haven't wrestled since WrestleMania weekend. He's like, also, I put on 10 pounds because I got a diet now, and they're making me eat all this meat. And he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, man. I'm like, nah, don't worry. It's going to be the easiest match of your life. And, man, we really killed it. And it's a shame, like, the indies, there's not as much eyes on the indies these days. Live, the shows have been great. They've been selling out all over the place. It's like when a band comes to your town, you got to be there to see, But the engagement as far as Twitter and Reddit and everything else when it comes to independent wrestling is down. In 2017, when I first blew up on the independents, a Beyond Wrestling show would be happening on a Sunday, and there would be a Reddit thread that was endless. Or on Twitter, you'd click a hashtag, and there'd be gifs after gifs after gifs, and people talking about GCW show. And these days, the engagement as far as social media for independent wrestling is completely down. I feel like because people, the independent wrestling people, it was hard to see that type of wrestling. They can watch now on Wednesday nights. Yep. They can see the non-WWE style of professional wrestling. You could see that live on Wednesdays, free on cable television, instead of downloading this or buying this iPay-per-view. And so people are less focused on, watching independent shows. I feel like if this me and Nick Wayne match happened in 2018, 2019, there'd be a lot more eyes on it. It was a 5-star match in my eyes. It was a 5-star match in a lot of people's eyes. And a lot of people did watch it. The show has 30,000 views on YouTube, which was smart to put it on YouTube for free for that reason. But still, GCW is probably the most viewed indie right now.
Yep.
as far as Troller TV and stuff, but you'll see people talking about it, but not as much as it used to be. Like Beyond Wrestling, there was when I was in there having my feud with David Starr, you'd go on Reddit, I'd vanity search myself on Reddit, see what people thought, and it would just be endless comments. And now it's like, now we don't have to go out of our way to watch it anymore because we can watch independent wrestling, what we think it is on Wednesday nights on AEW.
So do you think it's just perception for people thinking, well, I that's what it is on the indies, so I can watch it there, and maybe I'll catch up on those people? Is it not as popular? Is it character work? Are people not as popular as well on the indies?
No, yeah, it's probably not as popular as well, but it's hard to say. Maybe the brands are more popular these days. Like maybe it's the brand GCW,
right?
But I feel like that is AEW too. Like I feel like it's not like there's some guys, of course, that are over the MJFs, but it's not the guys that are over in AEW. It's the brand.
Sure.
That's over. I feel like that's wrestling. I feel like WWE, of course, it's always going to be WWE, and they're on an upswing right now. But it's like there's people that, like, we go to New Mexico for GCW. They're like, oh, we don't really know but we know the name GCW. We have to go see GCW. Of course, there's guys that were me, Nick Gage, Effie, and we're over guys, but it's the brands I think these days that are more over than the wrestlers.
I want to ask you about somebody who's going to start with GCW soon. You shouted out Sydney Akeem, former Reggie, former Scripps on Twitter. I know we have a tweet with that, and he'll be part of 3 GCW shows this month, including what should be, if you've seen him and Ninja Mac in Dallas is going to be a gift machine in the best way possible. But you put him over here, and I loved working with Reggie. That guy was willing to do anything. He was a favorite of a certain former company for a time. I mean, there was something there, and he did anything asked of him. Why? What caught your eye? Why are you thinking he's going to be something on the indies?
I think he's just I think he's a real athletic guy. I don't really watch TV wrestling too much. I don't really. I can't say I've seen one of his matches, but I've seen clips of him. I know he's an athlete, and WWE really never got to have that opportunity to have those long matches. They were always probably relatively short matches, 5 to 8 minutes. I'd probably say that was usually his frame in WWE for his match. But now he's got all these indie guys to work off of and also learn something from, because These guys are out there 3 times a week doing these indie shows, and they kind of got it down. Guys like Jack Carwheel, he's wrestling. He's going to be wrestling. Ninja Mac is a guy who's been all over Japan. He's going to be wrapping up with the Super Juniors in the next week, I think.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to learn there, and if he wants to hustle, it's not only that. It's not only do you have to hustle for your money, you have to come in level-headed. You have to come in saying, you have to realize that independent companies, they're not going to pay you that much. They're not going to pay you like some guys recently that have been released that are asking for $3,000 a day. And, independent promoters, some of them might be willing to pay it the first go around, but they're not going to be willing to give that to you every single month.
Joey, let me ask you about that, though, real quick, because you mentioned the rates of people coming off of WWE and varying levels of popularity coming out of WWE. Is that them not being in touch with the indies and not realizing, hey, there's other ways to make money than charging a higher rate?
It's just, I think it's just a quick money grab, and a lot of people are delusional when it comes to their rates. And I understand you're lost. You just got released from your contract. You don't know how things are going to turn out. You don't know if people are going to want to book you again. Luckily, I never went through that, because throughout basically my whole AEW run, I took indie dates, and I always knew that if it didn't work out here, that I would always have a stable income. But some of these guys, it's pretty scary to get out there, but it's a hustle. Not only do you have to wrestle often and more physically than you have in the last few years, probably on a a weekly basis, but there's merch involved, and there's this and that and this. And there's a couple routes you can go. You can go a convention route, and you can do a high rate and wrestle for the NEWs or the big time wrestlings. They do big summer tours all over the place, big minor league baseball stadiums and stuff. And I'm sure they'll pay you the $3,000. But if you hit up Brett Lauderdale and say, I want $3,000, and his top guys are not even making close to that, he's going to laugh at you, or he's just never going to respond to your email and just say, listen, how many fit? Excuse me, my allergies are terrible, and I smoke 20 cigarettes a day. But Brett Lauderdale is going to look at you and be like, are you going to bring more fans?
Exactly. Like we know what our audience is. Yeah.
Are you going to bring more fans? Are you going to bring more eyes to like a guy like Matt Cardona? Of course, that was so outside the box, and that was basically all. That was a John Carlo idea, which he's always been very smart with some of that stuff. He's one of the guys founding fathers of Spring Break and the current getting GCW to this current state right now. But like a guy like that, like, will that bring more eyes? Or like, will like these guys that just got released, will they bring more eyes? Or I most of these guys, I don't think it would matter if you put them on the show. We're going to sell the same tickets no matter what. But then you have other guys like Jinder Mahal. Of course, now you're like, this guy, if he's willing to play ball, that's definitely something outside the box enough to bring more fans in and to bring more eyes on the GCW. You got to look at it like that. But some of these guys just ask for too much. And also guys on AEW, if they want to, sometimes they take indie dates and stuff. They say, this is my price. And a lot of people are not going to pay that. And a lot of promotions that do pay that, that's why they go out of business within.
You said it. Some people like to go, we have the TV person here. It's kind of cool. You're going to run a show in another 3 months or not? Or did you spend your money there on the wrong person? And someone who I think has made more money off of you and has continued to do so using this very platform is Jim Cornette. Have you made more money off of Cornette, or has he made more money off of you with your back and forth?
And Cornette makes a lot of money.
He does.
He makes a lot of money. He has a lot of merch on his stuff. He sells a lot of stuff. Like, people buy his dumb certificates that he puts out. Like, I am in the cult of Cornette, $30. And he just stays in his house and he does his podcast and he has his advertisers. And man, he makes a lot of money. And I wish I could make that money just sitting in my house. And I'm not an introvert like Jim Cornette, but
you steered into that, and you steered into other online things because I think you then know, like, hey, we can get something out of this. What's your thought process when that kind of stuff happens? When do you go, you know what, I am going to engage and see what I get out of this?
Yeah, a lot of people won't engage with Jim Cornette. I did, just because I have a mark for Jim Cornette, and I thought it'd be just to get into these. I'm one of the only people he actually has blocked because I got under his skin that much. But Cornette is Cornette. I do listen to the Cornette Experience, whatever, the drive-in, whatever. I listen to all the podcasts. I like to get a perspective, everyone's perspective on the current state of professional wrestling. I don't watch professional wrestling on TV. I haven't seen an AEW show, I'd say, in 4 years. I've watched a few WWE shows here and there. I've been to a couple of WrestleManias just because it fell on my lap, or if I'm just chilling, I'll watch the Royal Rumble. It's always fun watch.
Does anybody catch your eye on TV? Does somebody like you like to watch? If you're doing it all the time, is somebody like, I want to watch what he's doing or she's doing or whatever?
I mean, like the Will Ospreys of the world and whatnot. They're just a different level right now and stuff. But everyone knows that. But of course, Gunther, his stuff must see. And he's so, and the way his match structure is so easy, and someone like that is someone like everyone should watch, even though if you're not a big guy like Gunther, less is more. If you want less is more, when they say less is more, everyone's like, less is more, less is more. That is the definition, because that guy is just amazing wrestler. But yeah, Um, I don't watch it all, but I follow. I'm on social media all day, and I listen to all the podcasts, so I kind of know what's going on through that type of realm of this business.
I like that, and I think it's good to get the perspective. It doesn't have to be about arguments. It's just, hey, here's what might work for this person versus this person. I always like doing market research of people who barely watch or why they saw something, and they go, oh, that person's cool. I mean, I don't agree with this opinion. I had someone go, I don't like AJ Styles. He's boring to me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, gotcha.
It's not – those people are not the worst is the followers of these little – the social media wars. It's like Cornette fans versus AEW fans, WWE fans versus AEW fans. This guy, Jim Cornette fans versus Vince Russo fans.
Yeah. They're all making money.
Every day,
everybody's making money off it.
Yeah, they're loving it because they're all making money. But everyone just looks so stupid. And that's why wrestlers choose not to engage in that situation. But I know the way I interact and I engage with these people or these fans, that it's a different case, and I can get away with it. Of course, if I sign to WWE next month, I won't be able to do that anymore. I'm having fun with it for now.
I appreciate that. I think you always keep things interesting. I've never been bored by you. I think no matter what anybody has to say about you, they're going to be talking about you, and they'll be doing that this weekend. Final shot at the GCW title as part of the Tournament Survival Weekend for GCW. It'll be on Triller on Sunday. And make sure everybody goes out and checks out GCW because they are all over North America and going to Japan very soon. So make sure you check them out.
Back to England, too.
And England, Japan, an independent promotion typically based out of the Northeast. That is long in the past now. Joey's a big part of that. Joey, I appreciate you taking some time. Good luck with the allergies, and bring home that title home this weekend.
Thank you, pal. I appreciate it. And,
you got it.
Thanks,
there you go. Joey Janela, our first guest here. We'll get that string out of my way in a second on the Wrestling Mat. If you want to see more of the Wrestling Mat, subscribe to the WrestlingMatShow.com. We have all kinds of content up there from the last week and a half. Started up this last Monday, and we're with you every weekday, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, going live randomly, so just be aware of that when there's live wrestling shows going on. If you hit the bell, you won't miss a thing. So make sure you subscribe for free at the WrestlingMatShow.com. Subscriber number jumped significantly after yesterday when we talked about my time through multiple regimes in WWE. Picked up by a lot of the news sites. I appreciate that, and thank you for embedding the video because that always helps as well. But I talked all about that. You can go check that out from yesterday's episode in full. A lot of different shorts are up there. We cover everything that's going on in the world of professional wrestling, and I love hearing you guys in the chat. Some people, it wasn't all positive in the chat. I don't need to tell that to Joey. I don't need to share all that, but I appreciate that there is a lot of conversation going on there. Shout out to John. What's up, man? How are you today? What up, Ian? What up, Great Stambino? As always, good to have you here and good to have all of you guys here. Still remaining on X. We're going to stay here for a bit. But, yes, the WrestlingMatShow.com wants you to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And also, please follow us at WrestlingMat23 on both Instagram and Twitter. Now, I want to talk a little bit before we get to AEW tonight and what is announced so far. NXT did not see this coming, kept very quiet. Shout out to everybody involved. Roxanne Perez trying to find out who she's going to face at that UFC Apex thing in Vegas in front of, by the way, like maybe 1,000 people. So they are definitely trying something out there. And I am just going based on what WrestleTix put out there. But Roxanne Perez gets told by Ava she's wrestling Jordynne Grace, the TNA Knockouts champion. Here's a moment I did not expect to see. And I was kind of looking, going like, all right, so they had, they have a lot of people tied up in the North American title match. Is Cora back? No, that's too soon. Is it Nikita? Probably not. And then Jordynne Grace comes out. And Jordynne Grace gets a massive pop from that Performance Center crowd. And then there's a TNA chant, which is just so weird that there's that heavy of a TNA chant in the WWE Performance Center. Obviously, good business to me. Set up a match with Stevie Turner next week, and then Battleground. Jordynne, I will tell you, I won't say I was a massive Jordynne Grace fan at any point. That's just personal preference. Then I watched her in the Rumble, and I didn't know she was going to be in the Rumble. I'm watching that Rumble, and we're doing that BS bump reaction video, whatever, of watching everything. And that might have been one of my most genuine reactions of them catching, all of our reactions in that whatever the hell it was, viewing room. I was like, "Whoa, Jordynne Grace! Holy hell, that's fantastic!" And she jumped off the page. She looked like she belonged. They gave her time to shine, which I was a little surprised about. But you know what? Sometimes you want to foster those good relationships. You make that happen. WWE had all the leverage in doing that. Now, I do think it's interesting that happened under the Scott D'Amore regime. He's gone, but it has continued. So that means that Jordynne Grace, regime change be damned in TNA, impressed enough people that they bring her back. And she is on NXT television. And she is going to go champion against champion for the NXT Women's Championship at Battleground against Roxanne. There is something there with the pop she got to maybe considering something surprising. I don't think this Roxanne title reign's been anything special. It would shake things up, and it wouldn't hurt Roxanne if they're worried about, how are we going to develop her into a star? If Jordynne beat her in Vegas, that will continue the conversation and get people going. So I love that. I love the surprise. You know what? Just straight up, it was a nice surprise on wrestling. It wasn't hyped. You got natural reaction. I think the reaction on social was nice. I think just the idea of companies working together is going to get people excited, and there's a lot of politics in that. And that's why it doesn't happen that often. Everybody's calling for it, and obviously you have Forbidden Door coming up, and that's different now to me because New Japan and AEW work so much in conjunction with each other, and there is a partnership, and the partnership goes beyond that pay-per-view. I also don't know if Forbidden Door has the same juice to it because Okada's in AEW, Will's in AEW, Mercedes was doing some stuff with Stardom. She's in AEW. I think we all know she was supposed to wrestle there last year. So the New Japan star power is rebuilding right now. Whether, you still have Naito there. You have Sonata. You have Ren Narita. You have some of these names. Jungle Boy wrestled Sonata last year. I always liked Sonata, but I don't think that was this big eye-catching match of, the IWGP champion Sonata. Tough time for New Japan. The yen is down. Their president has talked about that. They don't want to be a feeder system for America. I get all that, but it's tough right now. I think the idea of companies working together sometimes is more exciting than when it actually happens. I mean, tell me, what's your New Japan dream matches right now for Forbidden Door? What would you be excited to see? The world champion, the IWGP champion, is Jon Moxley. He's already in AEW. I assume Tanahashi will work. I wonder, is this the idea more exciting than the actual pay-per-view itself? And they'll put on a good card. I just don't think it'll have that same Forbidden Door sense. Whereas Jordynne Grace showing up in NXT is different. It's not something WWE does very often. TNA seems to be, even with this newer regime, open to doing those kind of things. I think they understand their space in the market. I think when they see, a former TNA person show up in another company, their social team's right on it. They're posting, hey, you just saw this guy show up in AEW. Here's all his matches in TNA. Samoa Joe just became the world champ. Oh, here's the best of Samoa Joe. That's very smart. That's TNA understanding where they fit. And, hey, we have a bunch of footage of this person who's on the tips of people's tongues in the wrestling world on social media. Let's go put our stuff out there. Grace Stampino. Shingo Mox. Sign me the hell up right now. Shingo, Mox, Danielson. I have been a massive Ishii fan forever. What's an Ishii match? What is our Ishii match? What would be fun there? Ooh, I got to think about that. Throw that out there. Who could face him? Who is an Ishii opponent in AEW right now you'd like to see? I got to think about that one. Throw me what you think in the comments. And if you don't know who Tomohiro Ishii is, you should go watch him because he has had some of the best matches of the last 10 years. He's a tremendous seller. And talk about somebody who throws his size out the window and wrestles about a foot bigger than he is. I got to think about that, what that match would be. Also on NXT last night, talk about not seeing this one coming. Trick Williams is in there and has the tag match and all that stuff. And doing the stuff with Lash. And all ego Ethan Page looking like $1 million, looking like he's exactly where he belongs, attacks Trick. There's an image I didn't expect to see. Are you kidding me? And to credit to another person, I will never say I was a massive Ethan Page fan until probably the last 6 or 8 months. He's dialed everything in about his look, about his presentation. Another guy who's great using his social media and his vlogs. And right there, you see him show up. He attacks Trick. It's a big deal. It's the right crowd to debut in front of. They're going to get it there. And I like the fact that he's there. And, the report was that he signed. And then he puts out a little 40-second video saying, listen, I'm not signed, but, I think I should be going after Trick. And NXT, if you want that to happen, you should pay me. Great stuff. I don't care if he's signed or not. He probably is. But you know what? Good. Play it up that way. Play it up that NXT has to acknowledge what you just did to their champion. Make that match a little bit bigger when we get there. It's always tough, though, when you debut somebody like that right into a championship match. Because if he loses, where does he go? How does that work, especially as a heel? Trick's a massive babyface. Ethan Page is the heel. Where do they go? Where do they go from there? How does he get that heat back if he loses? And if Ethan Page beat Trick Williams, let Trick chase for a little bit. I don't think that's a bad thing. But I liked it. It was a genuine, fun surprise last night from NXT. Shawn Michaels going meta with the chef hat pictures, a little much, just like Shawn having to post about it, and then Triple H like, well, at least he didn't twerk. We don't need all that stuff from those guys, okay? We don't. I get it. They're supposed to look cool on social media. I don't need Triple H tweeting about twerking. It's fine. Let's talk about Dynamite tonight here. And subscribe, of course, to WrestlingMatchShow.com. Hold on, I just saw a comment. Can we go back up? It was about Todd. I could probably add it. Hold on. Because I got excited when I saw it. There you go. There we go. Got it? There we go. Yes, they made a Todd Pettingill action figure. Here it is. I'm not getting paid for this. This is from Heels and Faces. Todd Pettingill, a well-deserved action figure. Comes on the back with his stats, which is tremendous. The Toddster. It's got all the inside information. WPLJ, Scott and Todd in the morning. For those, I'm sure Janela would have known that one. We'll put Todd back up there. That's a fun one. Todd's a great dude. We need more of Todd in the world, don't you guys think? I would love to see more of Todd in the world. He's got a whole bunch of stories he hasn't told. We haven't heard a lot of Todd. Maybe we'll hear more of Todd in the future. Talk about AEW tonight. Moxley's going up against Rocky in an IWGP title eliminator match. Because of all those matches that Rocky's won to get him that match. And I know he's happy about getting the match when they're LA. It's just, why is Rocky getting the IWGP Championship Eliminator match? I don't know. That's not a strong. I'd rather just say here, find out that Jon Moxley is coming out tonight and going to talk. I have said Jon Moxley can start every AEW show for all I care. The Young Bucks are going to address the TNT Championship. I'd like to see what they do with that. Obviously, they can be heelish on their own, or whatever. Do you just put Jungle Boy in a very advantageous position to win that title? Do you set up a tournament? And yes, they've done a lot of tournaments, and just okay, and then the winner's got Jungle Boy. I don't think that's the worst idea. Like, if they have a tournament and the Elite set it up and it's the Elite TNT title invitational and Jungle Boy's not in it, and then you do the tournament, I would do it like over one night. And then at the end of the tournament, somebody's won, Bret Hart, King of the Ring, 3 matches. Got to win them all one night. Somebody goes 3 matches, and at the end they go, oh, but actually, now you have to face Jungle Boy. I did that with some of those gauntlets with Kofi and Daniel Bryan and all that stuff. But wait, there's one more. I think there could be something to that. If you're going to do another tournament, have somebody, a Garcia. Here you go. You want to give somebody a nice little rub? Daniel Garcia wins 3 matches in one night. Thinks he's won the TNT championship. A championship he was trying to go after. But wait, no. And then they peel back the bracket, and there's another half, and it just says Jungle Boy. And his half of the bracket is just a bye to the finals. And then Jungle Boy beats a Daniel Garcia in his 4th match of the night. And the Elite have taken advantage of their power, and you've given Daniel Garcia a little bit of an underdog story. And yes, to the great Stambino's point, dastardly Young Bucks. I like that idea. And admittedly, kind of just thought of it as I was sitting here. If they're going to do another tournament, don't make it obvious. I think that's a way to go through it. We're going to know about the Forbidden Door Casino Gauntlet title match at Forbidden Door. All of that's a mouthful, and we'll find out who gets that championship match. All right. If there's more announced, let me know, because I was trying to keep an eye on it, but it seems like we don't know everything going on with AEW tonight. And we'll have to tune in to find out. Oh, right. The debut of TV Time with Chris Jericho. Could we be more any meta on the nose than that? Yeah, I'm literally going on their social media right now. There's not. Oh, Swerve and Kill Switch, which goes back, by the way, to the fact that Kill Switch pulled out one of Swerve's dreads. I thought they should have addressed that. I would have had Swerve beat Kill Switch and get that revenge somewhere along the way in the build. I assume we're not going back to Swerve and Christian. So I'm a little surprised they didn't do that match already. Jay Solomon on Twitter mentioned Tanahashi got the AEW. Yes, he got the last 2 Forbidden Doors and a win over Swerve. So he's getting a 3rd. I love Tanahashi. I know Swerve needs another win under his belt. I know a win against Tanahashi would be nice, but he's also the president of the company. I don't know. I don't know if I need that one. But we'll break all that down tomorrow on this very program. All of the fallout of Dynamite post Double or Nothing. Interested to see the rating coming out of that show. We're back up over 700,000. I don't think, and so I'll look real quick. While I'm looking. Oh, Joe, sorry if I missed it. Any updates on the Mania doc? Nope, 7 weeks. 7 weeks, baby. Don't know when it's hitting the airwaves. Don't know when it's hitting Peacock or the network or the Rock's social media account. No idea. Don't know when that's happening. I am trying to check sports competition tonight to see what AEW is up against. They're holding it hostage. I think the Rock's holding it hostage, if I had to guess. So tonight we have no hoops and Stars Oilers. Not a bad night, just based on sports competition alone for AEW. Coming off a pay-per-view. At least you've announced the Mox match. You've announced your world champion in the ring. Would like to hear more. But not a big night for competition for AEW. So they got an opportunity here. And you have an opportunity as well to subscribe to thewrestlingmatchshow.com. That is our YouTube channel. That's what you might be watching us on now if you're not watching us on X. But please subscribe. You'll get more content by subscribing. You can catch up on what you may have missed. You can subscribe for free. The more subscribers we get, the more I can do. Not just this weekday show, which you can catch Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, where we get all your questions in, all your comments in. I love having you guys there. But please make sure you do subscribe because we have some other ideas that we'd like to put out into the world. Some things I wasn't able to do when I worked at WWE. And now I can put those things out into the world. I'd like to have more interaction with you guys. Maybe we find ways to take some old concepts and bring them to life here. I'd love to be able to do a draft with your input. I like to be able to do a draft where I control one side and maybe you guys in the chat control the other. But I need you to hit that subscribe button. Please hit the bell so you don't miss anything that comes up on the show. Like I said, sometimes I go live when it's not 5 o'clock on a weekday, 5 o'clock Eastern. I go live during live wrestling. I was on for the Randy Orton-Gunther match at King of the Ring. Could do that again. But please subscribe. More subscribers we get, more content we can put out there. And listen, we could do that with your support. You can still follow us on X at WrestlingMat23 and Instagram as well. Love getting your questions and comments there. Please do that. Please make sure you follow us there. And I love interacting with everybody. And I like to save a lot of my interactions for this very show. So I'll do more of that tomorrow as it relates to Dynamite, any other news that may drop, because it seems like there's at least 1 or 2 tidbits per day that come out there. I didn't expect to be talking about Jordynne Grace and Ethan Page on NXT, and here we are doing that with 666 watching the show right now, and I don't care if it stays there. I mean, it would be nice to be up. And yes, Bueno Bars, we are up a significant number of subscriptions since last week, and I thank all of you for that. The milestone, the next one's 1,000. Got to get those hours up to watch everything because then we can do more with the show. And we have a great team behind us that's making that happen. Shout out to Derek. Shout out to Dom. Shout out to Ian and Annie. Joey Janela's friend, Mike Brown, helping out with this as well. One of my good friends. And I'd like to be able to do more of this. So as we wind down today, enjoy Dynamite tonight. Get your thoughts in. Make sure you're watching back some of our old videos. If you left a comment, by the way, there's a pretty good chance I may have answered it. So go back and check that out. Leave comments on our shorts. Talked, like I said, a lot about the ins and outs of working in digital versus television for WWE. We put a little short up about Willow Nightingale, who did respond to that. Shout out to Willow on Instagram for doing that. Talked about MJF's comeback and what it reminded a lot of us of. You can go check that out as well. But make sure you subscribe to WrestlingMatchShow.com. You won't miss a thing. And I'm here with you Monday through Friday, every weekday, 5 p.m. Eastern, tomorrow, breaking down Dynamite and so much more. So thank you very much for joining me once again. And with a nod to Tim Naki, who's back with the Blackjack Bets, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be talking about wrestling even more. See you then, tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Wrestling Mat. Bye, everybody.